fantastic school, and not been here before, so it's all new, like all the things going on everywhere. It's a fantastic resource for everybody here, I'm sure. And I know about your college and Cooney from Eric Cap, and we have worked together before at Discovery. In my photo department, we had an online archive of all the images, more than 1 million images online, and they needed to be captioned and we would find them. So that was Eric's job, to describe in words a picture and put all the information in the metadata that was necessary for the use of the system. And Eric, do you want to say something?
No, I was just going to mention, for the benefit of anyone here, at the time I was not working at this school. I was working in, I was living in Connecticut, and I was flying back and forth to work. The Discovery Channel headquarters are located in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I would fly down to work on Tuesdays, and I flew down the morning of the trade tower attack at the same time that took place here, and landed in Washington at the same time that the Pentagon was being attacked. My job changed pretty dramatically after that period of time.
Eric, you flew right past the World Trade Center just minutes before, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you
exactly.
saw them standing, and then they weren't there anymore.
Unfortunately, there was a member of the company who was killed in yet another event that took place when the plane went down in Pennsylvania, you'll remember.
Right, she was on her way to California for...
But for both of us, it's an interesting irony that we wound up here in New York after not ever expecting that was going to happen here. That wasn't what was in the plans or what we were doing at the time. But anyway.
Yeah, so we go way back, and you know, it's just, I'm sure you know Eric, you know how great he is, and it's an honor for me to be here with him. So we were talking at your house a few months ago, and I showed some videos from the company that I work for, and he invited me kindly to come here and show you guys. Mediastorm, what I'd like to do today, and it's totally interactive, so if you have questions, raise your hand, talk, whatever. It's, it's not really formal or anything, we're in a small room together. But what I want to do is go through the basic structure of our company, how we work, answer any questions you might have, and show you samples of our work. Sometimes I'll give you just snippets of it, but other times we'll sit down and we'll watch the whole thing. We do short-form multimedia documentary films, and we barely have a piece longer than 30 minutes. I think the average is about 10 minutes. But you can get a lot in those 10 minutes. And we are all about emotional storytelling. The heart of any great piece is this story. And we focus on one individual character typically, so that you can connect with that person and then thereby understand a larger issue. Our clients are mostly nonprofits and humanitarian causes, so we have some pretty emotional stories to work with. So let's just take a little look. If you are interested in learning more about Mediastorm, you can just go to our website, Mediastorm.com. Just so you know, there is another Mediastorm out there. It happens to be in Connecticut. It's Mediastorm.biz, and you get their phone calls all the time. But not the same company. They're an ad agency, and we are an award-winning documentary film studio. So just make sure you do the .com or .org and get to us, and not to the other guys. We have a lot of different businesses, and I can go over some of these in detail, but just so you can see the breadth of everything, we are a publication. We're like a channel, we're like a magazine, but we're online. So we are putting out our own voice. We have clients, and we're helping them with their voices. We do interactive design and development, which just comes along with doing anything on the web. You have to be able to present that to people, and there's an interface that you need to be really good at developing. And so not only did we do that on the front end, we also on the back end have built a player and a lot of different ways of managing media that are unique to Mediastorm. And we have 3 people on staff who that's what they do. We also have licensing and merchandise options, because we created content that everybody wants to license that, and that becomes a business in itself. We want products related to it, like DVDs and whatever. So we sell those, and we also do a lot of training, because Mediastorm is the leading multimedia production company in the world. And even though we're only 7 years old and we're small, just 10 people, we've built a reputation, and then therefore people want to learn from us, and then we've developed a whole curriculum for training. So we can talk a little bit about that too. To start out, I'm just going to give you just a little taste of one of our publication pieces. This is a trailer that we did just to promote the piece. For the first time, 6 months ago or so, we started charging to watch our videos. Before that, they've been free to watch and share on the web. We're recognizing that we can't keep doing that and evaluating content over the long run to the industry. It's better to start charging. So this is one of two pieces that we charge 99 cents to watch. It's called Paper Story, and this piece is A Shadow Remains, and this is the trailer for it. And so let me just get that up here, and then I'm going to turn off the light just so you can see a little better. Audio will work. Everybody okay? Not afraid of the dark? Right.
Parents seem permanent. They've known you as a baby, as a 10-year-old, as a teenager. And they love you without reservation. They have been there forever, and they're going to be there forever. Maybe a little bit softer with the erosion of the wind, but always there. And when they die, it seems inconceivable. It just seems ridiculous. Seems stupid.
So you can see pretty dramatic, right? Cinematic. With the advent of the internet being more broadband and great cameras like the Canon C300 and other great 5D cameras, now everyone here can do video, photography, really high-level content creation, and you can distribute it directly to the audience. Okay, this is fantastic time to be a voice, to be somebody who has something to say. In this case, this story was a photographer named Phil Toledano had done a story in the traditional way of photography, where he was documenting his father's aging. And he did a book, and he was very successful, and that was great. But then what happened? And not very many people could see it because it was you had to buy the book or whatever. It's also locked up, in our opinion. So Brian Storm, our founder, stepped in, and we made the multimedia component to make it now shareable to other people and visible to anybody in the world with 99 cents. So, back in. So, a little bit about Brian Storm. Brian is a force to be reckoned with. He's an amazing, amazing visionary and innovator. He had a background at MSNBC. In his 20s, he was one of those Wunderkind people who just, helped create the internet and the way that we understand the use of content on the internet. He was responsible for multimedia components for MSNBC and when it started. After that, he was brought over, sort of a Bill Gates transition from MSNBC to Corbis, stock photo agency. Again, in his 20s, he was responsible for all news, sports, entertainment worldwide for Corbis. He was there for a couple of years, and then They let him go. Which was a huge blow, surprise to him, but, you know, it was the best thing that ever happened to him. You know, there was a lot of, you know, just my own personal opinion, a little jealousy there, and everyone kept talking about Brian Storm, Brian Storm, Brian Storm, and finally they're like, Brian Storm, you need to go. And so, you know what, he took that, and he started his own company. He started Mediastorm, and that's where he needed to be anyway, because he had too many ideas for, you know, a corporation, really. You have all the power when you have that many ideas to just go and do it, and that's what he chose to do. He had moved from Seattle to New York, so out of his apartment in New York near Union Square, he just set up shop and started talking to his friends and putting together content that he wanted to watch, that he wanted to see. And that was in 2005, and he hasn't looked back. In the last 7 years, we've been nominated 15 times for Emmy Awards and won 4 DuPont Awards and all kinds of other stuff, which you can see on our website. The first story he did was something called Never Coming Home, about Iraqi war veterans and how they, or Afghanistan, how they, the families never got to see their children, and stories around that. And when it's good, people notice, and sure enough, Brian started winning awards right up almost from the beginning, and the company started growing. And so he was a publication. He was a channel, and he started to develop a style that we became known for, and it has evolved even in this short amount of time. The stories we're doing now are different than the stories we did initially. Brian came from a photojournalism background, and so there was a lot of still imagery with audio, and you know, it is innovative for its time, but already now with the cameras and everything, you can be a lot more cinematic. So our pictures, our pieces are looking a lot more like mini movies these days, although we still are based on journalism and storytelling in that way. It's not all the way to, you know, documentary films, which are all video. We're still a mix, but you know, you had your books and stills over here, and you had your documentary films over there, and now we're in this world where it's like this. So we're at the nexus of that. So another example, I'll just show you a few minutes of this one, but again, you can go online and watch any of these anytime you want, but this one's called African Air. Another publication piece where a friend of Brian's, a fantastic guy named George Steinmetz, had a story. George works for National Geographic magazine, and he has a eagle's eye view of the world with the way he takes pictures. And these are in books for National Geographic, but with us, it's multimedia. So let's get this one started, and I won't watch the whole thing right now, but you can get a sense of everything in the next 10 minutes or so. Okay. It's online, you can watch it for free.
So this piece was an effort to promote a book by him, or?
It was a piece in itself, equal and standing alongside the book. It's a partnership with George and Mediastorm, 50/50. Any revenues that we license this piece, it's just another way of expressing his work. We feel like it's very flexible and interactive for people to be able to, if you like this, then just share a link with your friends. You know, anybody can watch this for free and share it with other people. Where it's harder to give them a book, it costs $80. Just saying. And one of the things that we've evolved with, not only with the better cameras and more cinematic look, is we've also recently added the capabilities of more motion graphics in-house. We always have graphics, you know, you always have to have the titles on there and the credits and all of that, but we've become a lot fancier. And we feel like we have now a member of our team who's elevated everything that much further, because now we have really cool graphics, and the piece I'll show you at the end will really showcase that. But here's just a sample. This he did in his first week on the job. He's 23 years old, came from Kansas City, moved to the big city, and is doing amazing work right out of the box. No kidding, he did this, I think, within the first few days.
Memory is everything. Memory is the description of your life.
See, that's way beyond just the text. Now you're going into all kinds of dimensions, 3D effects, and really cool way of showing dimension, in this case, of memory and all of those ethereal things really come across in Joe's work. His name is Joe Fuller, and he's changed the way we do our job. And you know, that's what you want when you're building a team. When you start with a small company with just Brian in his pajamas, and then you keep adding capabilities over time that build a team that creates a brand and a core body of work that you can be proud of. So, you know.
His name is Joe Fuller?
Joe Fuller, yep. And, you know, of course, when we built this publication, or Brian did, then along came the clients. You know, they're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing stuff. We wanted that for our companies too. And of course, we get to choose what kind of clients we want. It's easy enough to do work for Exxon and get rich or whatever, but, you know, Brian is specifically interested in working for nonprofits, humanitarian causes, and so, you know, you take a look at our client list, we've been successful in getting a lot of these. And this is my job at MediaStorm, is to be business development, interact with the clients. They come knocking on our door more often than we have a chance even to get out to talk to them. They're coming to us, and that's a privilege and an honor. And they come with amazing stories. And so, you know, we have like this Tetris game of a schedule where we've got blocks of time, and the resources that we have on the team is like, okay, here comes another client. Well, where are we going to fit them in? You know, and we're trying to make sure that we can match what someone's need is with the available resources that we have. And in the meantime, Brian is going out and speaking to people and talking about what we do, and training people come to our training, are going out and talking about the experience. So it's a constant virtuous cycle of interest in MediaStorm. And again, we're not that old, but look what can happen in a short amount of time. So you can watch all of our client pieces, again, for free if you go to our website and click on the client tab, and then just and then projects, and then all the projects are in there, and they love it when you watch it because it means you're caring about what they're doing. It is, again, was the outgrowth of doing all of this was the need for interactive design and development, and that led to jobs on their own also that are just purely web design, but they have built into it all kinds of video and multimedia storytelling. We did work for Reuters. Like this is a timeline that is very interactive and has tons of video in there. The Council on Foreign Relations has done a lot of a whole franchise of information guides. They're a think tank, and you know, so that's more heavily on the web design end of things as opposed to pure lean back experience of watching a movie on a screen. But it's all using the same core elements, just, you know, dash more pepper on this one for the web design, and that leads to maps and graphics and infographics and all kinds of other things. Again, we have this on staff. Same back-end guys who are building the infrastructure also happen to be talented designers, and so we're very fortunate to be able to weave this into our stories in an effective way to be able to explain what the point is of everything. A byproduct, again, is the licensing of the work, and now our video player is unique to us, and so we're licensing that, and that's seeming like it's going to be a rocket ship about to take off because it's really cool and has a lot of unique features. Goes beyond Vimeo and all that, but you know, we did it for our own reasons. The point is that we needed it for ourselves. We built that capability. It's like, okay, you like our player? All right, we'll license it to you. And you know, some people are offline. They can't get something online, but they still want to watch the programming. So we have accommodated that with, you know, the sale of DVDs and other products related to the programming. Training, again, starting from just helping some people out. Next thing you know, it's like we have a whole series of different things that we can do for training, one-day workshops. Storytelling workshop is a week where people come from all over the world, and They pay $3,500 for the week. That does not include room and board or anything. It's just for the training. And then we have the audacity to make them like stay up all night and work really hard. They're stressed out, by the end of it, but and exhausted. But they usually will tell you that it's changed their life. That they'll never look at storytelling in the same way. And it's incredibly competitive to get into the workshop. But when they do that, then they together create a piece. Actually, there are usually 2 teams, so 2 pieces are created every time we do a workshop that you won't believe could have been done in a week. And all of those can be seen under training, under projects, again, for free, can be shared. Any of your nursing students, you should look at one called Take Care, really amazing story, and some other ones that are usually profiling New York personalities. And I'll show you one of the productions we did and the training later on. But they're New York stories because this is where people come for the training, and they read a story, they go out and get the story, and they shoot the whole thing, and they do a premiere by Friday. It's a crazy schedule, but that's really great experience. And then because everyone wanted to learn about MediaStorm, then we started creating a methodology workshop where we actually teach the teachers or people who are creating their own MediaStorm. Like if you wanted to start a company just like ours, Brian is teaching you how to do it with our own forms and our own workflow, and everything is completely giving away everything because he wants the industry to change. And it's $2,500 for the workshop, but then you come away with like everything he spent years figuring out. As a business development person like Brian, really, you're going to give away everything, but it's fantastic to see, again, it's spread, where now there's universities that are teaching you this method or whatever, and then you have another crop of students that are doing it in a different way than they would have if they had never had the training. Brian goes off and does traveling workshops also, Norway, Asia, China, whatever. He's also teaching MediaStorm everywhere. We also do post-production, helping people edit their pieces, consulting work, that kind of stuff. So there's just a lot that can go on when you start with a good idea, which is, you want to tell a story and you're good, look what it can grow into in just a short amount of time. And you have all those tools. So this is one of the training workshop pieces done in a week. This one I'm going to play, I think, the first 10 minutes or so of this one. How much time have we got? Yeah. We're okay? Because the whole piece isn't that much longer. Maybe I should play the whole thing. Would you want to do that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. This is on the newer end for us, so using some of the new camera equipment that we have. Joe was on board with some of the graphics, so maybe he wasn't, but we're getting Joe-ish. So let's watch this one. It's called Remember These Days, and it was focused on a New York personality that they just picked when they got here for the workshop, and look what you can do in a week. Yeah, that little girl gets me every time. Okay, so I guess we have time to see today. Questions?
How long did that production take to create?
Clients come to us, and within a few months we're getting started with them, and then it's just no more than 10 days in the field, and then about 2 months of post-production. So
Okay.
2 to 3 months, usually.
I have a question. In regards to that, you mentioned before that you make projects with nonprofit organizations.
Right.
What's the process that goes behind that? I mean, do they come to you and they ask you to film a certain type of project, or do you both come into agreement of some type of collaboration on what to work on?
Right. We're a vendor to them. They're our client, so we do what they ask us to do. We're a service. In the case of, say, Minds Advisory Group, they want to show what they're doing out in the world for the good of the communities and everything. So, we get what their story is, what their need is, and then we're interpreting that into a visual sense. So it starts with what they're asking for and how they're going to use it and all that, and then we're certainly partnering with them as far as which cameras and what angles and how we're going to best be able to present that visually. That's our part of the job. They would never tell us, don't use that camera, use that camera. But we would never tell them, this is an important thing for you to do. You know, we don't direct anything, we're journalists, so we don't stage anything, this is as it was happening. You know, we're just there, capturing whatever we can, and then putting it together later into a cohesive story.
So you're there along with them filming, or do you give them all this equipment to use to capture all the story, or do they?
With our shooters?
Yeah.
So that was shot by Rick Gershon, who's our main cinematographer, and he happens to have a lot of his own equipment. He shoots for Deadly, he's capturing a lot of things. He's on staff with us, but he does freelance jobs. So he has a lot of cool stuff. For this particular shoot, we had to deal with Canon, where they gave us a camera the night before, a brand new one that wasn't out yet, called a C300, $20,000 camera or something. And they let us use it for free if Rick would talk about the experience later. So he had no training. He showed up the first day. He had to figure out a new camera and shoot with it, and that's what he came back with. He was very happy, and you can see his talk. There's a video online that you can see of Rick talking about the experience of shooting with the camera, which he loved, by the way. But then he had to give it back. Yes.
How do they deal with safety management in a situation like that?
Yeah, it's a risk, right? I mean, Rick was wearing a vest, said MAG on it. I think that if it blew up in the wrong way, we wouldn't have Rick anymore, you know. So we have insurance as much as we can for a medevac to get Rick out of there if something went wrong, or any of our shooters in any location. You do the best you can with working with the clients and the people in the field. You know, it's their organization, they do this every day, and we're just trying to help them tell their story. Yes?
I have a question. In terms of internships, what would the process be like, and what would students be doing at an internship with you guys?
This is what they're doing. They're actually working on real work. What kind of students do we get? You know, a lot of students that are in really great programs already, that have created their own pieces or whatever, are the ones that we're looking at, so we can judge their skills a little better if they've already done something. And then they come in and they're sitting at the desk alongside everybody else working on projects. They're not filing papers. They're not. I can tell you that because I'm filing papers. But they're helping us make these stories, and a lot of times they have skills because this is so intuitive to them that we learn from. So it's a really great collaborative process, and they get paid. We don't have free interns who pay them. Yeah.
How often do the internships lead to like actual positions in your organization?
One of the shooters on our team was an intern, and other ones come back every once in a while to help out with projects. So it happens a lot. You know that you know we're learning who the people are out there, and they're learning about us. You know, it's not a guaranteed thing. It doesn't go from one to the other. But if we know you and you're good, we're not going to forget about you.
One more question. Where are you guys like mainly stationed, like your headquarters?
We're in Dumbo, in Brooklyn. Yeah, so we're on the F train at York Street.
It's by downtown Brooklyn, right? Kind of by Fulton, almost.
Yeah, we're right actually near the East River. So you can look out our window and see the Manhattan Bridge right over my head.
Yeah. I went to high school down there. It's cool.
Right, so we're on 20 J Street is the actual address, and it's a block from the East River, J Street, right down the hill from York Street Station. Yep.
Yeah, as far as clients, I see that, I saw your list of clients, and
Yeah.
most of them look like non-profit organizations. And those companies usually like to do PSAs. I know you say you don't stage,
Right.
but is that something that's possible in the future for the company, or is it strictly just documentary? As far
Well, you know, we would never rule out anything that's going to be a good story or whatever. We tend not to do promotional pieces, you know, or even corporations for that matter, that are promoting a product. You know, we have done work for Starbucks and one for Sears, but in those cases, there's a reason. Like with Sears, it was they had a program for returning veterans where they would give appliances, like new refrigerators to returning veterans. So we had the story of what it was like to have PTSD. So kind of weave that into the refrigerator. But we didn't actually do that part, we just told the story. And then for Starbucks, it was, you know, how they grow coffee, the people out in the field, where it comes from. And it's very, you know, again, we're just going there, reporting on the story. And then they did use it in a promotional way for their big annual meetings and all of that. Howard Schultz, the founder, is a big fan of MediaStorm. So, we've done several works for them, but it's usually, it's always editorial or we won't do it, typically. So a PSA is editorial in that, it's you're trying to tell what a cause is doing to help them, help a nonprofit, but it's more like PR sometimes, or advertising, and we as a rule don't typically do that, but if it's a cool story and we can be true about it, then we'll definitely look at it. Yes?
My question kind of leads into his, or ties into his. I noticed everything is, some of the stuff you showed us is pretty much humanitarian.
Mm-hmm.
In the process of picking an intern or choosing somebody to be in the workshops, would somebody with a portfolio who has, stuff that's more humanitarian in this sense, or have a broader spectrum, have a better chance necessarily, or?
Well, it'll certainly be more relatable for us, right, if you're doing something that we do. It's always a good idea.
But I guess what I'm asking is, like, would you guys normally consider different styles of documentaries or different styles?
I think what Brian, who is the decision maker on everything, Brian Storm, is looking for is somebody with a good eye and as a problem solver, is able to dissect the story and communicate that effectively. So if it happens to be a promotional piece of some kind and you're able to do that, it wouldn't rule you out or anything. It's not like we don't like that. It's more like it's just not what we do. So, if you have those skills, he would see that, but if you can augment it with something of what we do, it's just easier for us to say, well, he can do what we do. Yes?
Is there a set time when you do internships? Like, do you only do spring or fall?
Yeah, it's usually twice a year. It's on our website. If you look under, I think it's in the staff area, the about area. Maybe it's, I'll have to look and see where it is, but I think the next time is in November is the next deadline for, I have that somewhere. Intern with us. Yeah, see, July 14th. Yeah, so November is for spring, July is for fall. Okay, so yeah, so next one is July then. Is the next deadline for putting in for the fall. Yes.
Do you have internship for web designers or graphic designers as well?
We don't. That's a great question, though. We are storytellers for video primarily, but we haven't had that. I won't say we don't, but we haven't had that. We tend to look at the web design people and motion graphics guy is supporting the video storytelling, we don't take jobs that are only for motion graphics or only for web design without anything else. There's plenty of work for that, and people do come to us for that, and I have to say, I'm sorry, we don't just create a website without any video or something. But if you happen to be an intern with those skills, and you can support the video people in the same way, I don't see why that wouldn't be a cool thing for us.
Yeah.
Yes?
Have you ever had an intern traveling along with a crew?
Sorry, I can't quite hear
America
you.
or something?
Can you say that again?
Have you ever had intern travel along with your crew?
Yes. We did a story I can think of right now on breast cancer. And the intern actually, if you want to see that, it's on the client list in the client area. It's called Restored. And it was shot entirely by the intern with support of Rick, our main guy. But you'll see the credits, Caitlin Green. She was our intern, and she did a phenomenal job. It's a really great story. Yes?
Do you guys ever show any films like in theaters, like around and stuff?
We are looking at all kinds of venues. Our content has been licensed for television, and everything's shot in HD, so it can be anywhere. It happens to be on the web at low res, but it can be on a huge screen or HD television in your living room. And so we actually, for the last publication piece that we did, we were looking at maybe a theatrical release of it in Manhattan. And we ended up doing something at Galapagos, if you know where that is in Dunbar, on a big screen instead of in the movie theater. It was sort of like, in the documentary film world, you need to have things in a movie theater in order to qualify for an Oscar. You have to have a certain number of events. There's all kinds of requirements that way. And we're just not in that world, really, that's not our goal, to be documentary filmmakers and to go to a film festival. Not that they're not cool, and that we don't like films also, but what we do is more direct to the public by the web or television. We actually think that television and the web are going to be the same thing, okay, next year at the latest. That your television will be like a giant iPad with apps. And we're going to have the MediaStorm app. Yes.
Yeah, doing a workshop, I noticed that you've been doing documentary and stuff, but do you think anyone interested in a script and something you can just generate a script or something?
So a script, is it true story?
True story, fiction or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
An idea.
You know, I think that if we are taking bodies of photography work and making that into documented multimedia pieces, I don't know why we can't take a text of a story and then shoot around that just as well. So, you know, if you're interested in submitting that, then go for it. You know, we're looking for the story, and then we're going to make it whatever, you know, shoot video or shoot stills, however we have to make it come to life. Yes?
You mentioned that post-production takes like 2 to 3 months. How does it take so long?
Why it takes so long? Okay, so first of all, so a story like that one in Angola, you gotta fly to Angola, then you got jet lag, and then you have to meet the people, because we haven't met them until we get there, as far as, okay, here are all the children in the village who've been blown up by landmines, which one do you want to make a movie from? And then you have to interview them and talk to them and find out who's going to be the best story, and then narrow that down. And then you get maybe a day or two with that person shooting them, that's it. And then you move to the next village, and also, by the way, it's like 80 miles away over a rugged road with no internet.
I'm talking about post-production, you said.
And then, you know, so then you come home after 10 days of this, right? And then you bring everything back, and then you've got to transcode everything and put it into the right formats, and then you need to translate it. They weren't speaking English. So now we've got to send everything off to be translated into transcripts so that you can see what they're saying. And then from the transcript, then you have to edit it to figure out, okay, what's the story arc here? How does this all work? And you lay it all out. It's like a process, and everybody's pitching in on the team to figure out, like, what's the best way to express this story. So there's a lot. It starts with the words, actually, but it takes a while to get everything into the right format so that you can then place it layer by layer. You know, so now you edit it down by the words to the best story, and then you match the video to that and edit the video, cut those in little pieces, and string them all together. And then you layer in the audio and the music. I mean, it's nothing. A scene can be completely flat unless you hear that rumbling under the surface, and makes you go, "Oh my God, something's about to happen here." Sound effects and then music, and just right, not too heavy, not a distraction, just right to warm it a little bit. And then after everything's all edited the way you want it, then you still have to color correct it and you know, put it all and show it to the client unless they hate it. Now you gotta edit it again. So it's 2 months. It's a miracle that happens that quick. Yes.
Are MediaStorm employees like humanitarian at heart, or is it just based on pure skill, I guess?
Right. I think if we cared so deeply about every one of these issues, we'd be like laying on the floor, prostate crying all the time. You know, like, we can't get involved. We're not fundraising for these guys. We're not trying to solve cleft palate today. You know, we are telling stories. So that's what we're about. You know, you hire us to come in and analyze what the story is and make it something that people want to watch. Yes?
Have you ever been shooting a story where when you were there you were inspired to shoot another one?
Well, you know, certainly the landmine story is the second one we've done there, and then there are other spin-off ones that you know, we'd love to do. You know, what we tend not to do, except for the publication pieces that are the ones that we're in partnership with photographers for. We tend not to have time or resources to just do something for free because we like it, or we think it's a great story. You know, those projects are like filling in the gaps around the client projects. So we have so many client projects that we are well paid for, and they're coming along. And so you know, if they want another version of the same one, we're happy to do that. We have several series of videos like that, but more often than not, we're just getting more clients and we bring in more different stories. Yes?
Going to such a hostile country like that, you need government permission?
Government permission to go into like this country?
Yes, like most of those documentaries, but they're true lives.
Yeah, releases and permission, permits, all that are the client's responsibility to go and you know, they are working on the ground all the time doing that. That's their responsibility. So we come in as their guest, and they introduce us to people. They make that happen. It is a complicated issue, or even something simple like teaching in a school setting. You know, all these children have parents, and half the parents are lawyers. They're like, you can't show my kid on, you know, whatever. So we have good contracts that we do right up front with everybody to make sure that, you know, everyone's clear on who we own most of the pieces that we do, almost always. And so, you know, they're facilitating us shooting, and they have their responsibilities, we have ours. And we straighten all that out ahead of time because we don't want any confusion. You first.
I mean, you said figuring stuff out ahead of time. Like, say a story like this, would you keep somebody off the job if they, I guess, would take it personal? Is there something that's...
If they had trauma over something, or what?
Right, like if they were from that village and they lived here now, and that's something that was very, like, made them emotional, would you keep them off?
Yeah, you would hope that everyone would be professional, that even if they came from that village and all that they could still, you know, summon the courage to go back and shoot it the way it needs to be shot. I suppose if it were really traumatic and it was really affecting their job, yeah, we'd say, okay, well, maybe you're not going to do this, Rick. Maybe Tim will do it instead this time. You know, you figure it out. But that hasn't happened yet. But I imagine it could. Yes.
Have you ever worked in cooperation with other media groups and corporations?
Other media groups to shoot something?
Right.
Yeah. Well, this last piece was in cooperation with Nathan Golan, who brought us the client in the first place, and he was in there shooting with Rick. So he didn't belong to us, but he was shooting alongside Rick. And so, yeah, we every once in a while will partner, but it's not something we typically do because, you know, even bringing in somebody from the outside is not something we typically do. We tend to have enough resources on our own team. And that's a decision that Ryan makes because he likes to control the quality. I mean, it's not an accident that the work is so good. That's because Brian is like this over everybody, and he's checking everything, and you know, everything is scrutinized, everything is discussed, and that's important for quality. If you have too many cooks in the kitchen and people are coming in with different shooting camera or styles or whatever, it could affect the quality of the piece. So we tend to. You know, if we want something to be better in what we do, then we go hire somebody and we add them to the team with Joe. But we tend not to do outside people too often.
Have you ever done any documentary that generated a lot of controversy or people report?
There was a controversy over which documentary?
Have you ever done any documentary that people report or, you know, cause generates controversy? I said, have you ever done any documentary that, you know, people report or generates controversies?
I got everything except the last part. Have you ever done a full-length
He wants to
documentary?
know if you shot anything that created controversy in society.
Yes. One of the workshop pieces, one of the last workshops we did was, you can see it online, go into training, and it's called the American-Made Benny. And so here are these, again, people flying in from Norway, all these other countries, and they're like, okay, let's pick Benny for a story. He looks like an interesting guy. He collects garbage and he sells stuff or whatever. Okay, well, a day or two into it, you realize Benny is mentally ill. Benny is you know, he says he has PTSD. He's just a little off. He beats his children. You know, his family doesn't like him. You know, like. So what do you do now? The workshop here, everyone's doing it. You know, so they went ahead and they had tons of discussions in the middle of the night. Is it fair? Is it exploiting Benny to show him the way he is? Or do we, you know, how ethical is it for us to kind of hide the fact that he's sort of controversial or that he uses the F word every other word? You know, like, what are we going to do with Benny? So in the end, We did publish it exactly as it was, with a disclaimer saying this might not be for all audiences. And we did a whole blog post on, you know, is it fair to show mentally ill people or questionable people? And then we also did, it was really interesting, and afterward with Benny, like we filmed him watching his piece. And his reaction to how we perceived him, and you know, Benny, do you think this is fair? Do you think it's an accurate representation of you? So, you know, in the end, there was actually not even much of a controversy, but we were really worried there would be, because we're still not sure it was the right thing to do to show it. But you watch it and tell us what you think.
Pam, you just said that you had put a blog post up about this. Does this mean that you use social media in connection with, I don't mean you personally, but the company to...
We believe in social media so much we have a full-time person for social media, and she's awesome. So she's live tweeting events that are important to the industry. She's always putting things up there about Mediastorm and, you know, talking and discussing things. I mean, she has this tweet deck thing that has like 20 windows open at any given time, and she's running all these different conversations. It's amazing. So yeah, social media is essential.
She has a tweet. Is it under her name or the company's name?
It's under Mediastorm, but her name is Lisa Jamhuri, and you know, she started maybe a year ago or something like that. But she's, you know, Hootsuite and TweetDeck, and you know, like, not only is she making sure she's our voice in social media, but she's also looking at across everything that's going on in the industry and tweeting anything that's important. Because we have a community of people who look to us to see what's, you know, what's interesting, and so you know, that's Lisa's job. She does it really, really well.
Maybe it's time to call it quits. Pam, I think I can speak for everybody here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'll be here for a little while if you have any questions or anything else you want to say personally, but you know, I had a great time today. You guys are awesome, and I hope we see you in Dumbo soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.